ambiguity is killing us as organizations because there's just constant unknown.
I read the values on the plaque in the wall, and then I spent 2 weeks kind of going around and talking to employees, and I said, these are not what's happening here. And he said, what do you mean? This is the best place to work anywhere.
It says it.
And it says it on the wall.
And I said,
it has to be true.
I said, it's the best place to work for you.
To be bulldozerish, to be strong is to be a leader. Yes, at certain times. Unconventional is how can you be a quiet, soft leader that drives excellent organizations and excellent results.
Welcome to the Unconventional Leadership Podcast, where we help you unlock your potential as a leader. Hey, can I ask you a favor? Can you please hit subscribe or follow on any platform that you're listening or watching this episode? Our goal is to connect with you, to bring additional value to you, to bring additional topics to you, and we can do that more effectively if you hit subscribe or follow. Thank you so much. Well, thank you for joining this week's episode of the Unconventional Leadership Podcast. Today, I bring to you not just one amazing guest, but three legendary guests that all three are back in the studio, believe it or not. I think all three of you started with me season 1. Thank you for daring to jump into the studio 8 years ago. And here we are 8 years later. So anyway, I'm really excited to have all three of you here. You're dear friends to me. You're amazing leaders. You're global influencers, and also just really good people with really big hearts. So today, we are going to talk about some leadership. We're going to talk about personal leadership, organizational leadership. We're going to talk about disruptive HR themes and trends, if I will ask about trends. And we did have a little pregame roll that we got a couple questions that could be loaded to get people fired up.
Absolutely.
So would like to, Jennifer, start with you. What are you most excited about for 2026?
Oh, wow. Quick question right out of the
Wow.
AI.
Big. Oh, God.
2026, I think, is going to be a year of massive change for everybody. So I'm excited about figuring out what that massive change looks like for me, because I serve leaders as a speaker and a trainer and a coach, and their needs are changing. So not that I've always done it a certain way, but I have to think about how I can evolve. How do I make sure that I don't get replaced by somebody talking to an LLM and thinking that they're getting good coaching, or that they're getting the strategy that they need to run their business, or that they understand how to coach their teammates as a leader. So I think it's a challenge that I'm ready and excited to take on, but it's definitely, I think we all have to think differently every day because the world is changing so fast every day. But knowing that in 2026, by this time, December 2026, the world is going to look, I think, completely different than it does today. I have to be prepared for that. And so that's what I'm thinking about for 2026. How do I stay agile? How do I continue to be relevant? How do I make sure that I stay current?
Yeah, that's awesome. It challenges all of us. I'm thinking through everything you just said, like, oh yeah, we better be ready for it. Steve, what about you?
She's kind of freaking me out. I mean,
that's why I'm here.
That's right. I'm looking forward to hopefully more stability, less uncertainty. Ambiguity is killing us as people, as a society, as organizations, because there's just constant unknown. And it's so unpredictable. So if we just got some stability along with the good changes that are going to come, I think we're ahead of the game. But if it's just guess and throw darts at the wall, it gets tiring.
Yeah.
And our people are tired. People I know are tired. They want to have something to look forward to versus something to be apprehensive about. And I think that's what we need to move.
Awesome. James?
And I see a balance of both. So I think the world is going to be completely different, right? And what I'm really excited about is, yes, seeing everything that's going to be new and everything that's going to be out there. Our role as leaders, I believe, is going to have to be focused a lot on what are the core basics that are going to help us reground, right? You've got to remain agile, but I really think that value add from leadership is going to be in what are the core foundations that we can bring to our organizations and to the people that are around us to be able to have some stability and all of that sway that Jennifer calls out.
So what are they? What are the key things our people are looking for, organizations and teams and humans are looking for?
We're trying a new thing. We found that we've had a culture of told, and people want a culture of ask. Ask me what I think. Ask me my thoughts. Get my input. Talk to me about my talent. Don't just tell me what to do. But organizations haven't moved past that. People sit and wait until they're told. And then when they're told, they're like, well, I didn't want to do that. Yeah. Why didn't you ask me? You go, okay, well, now I'm going to ask you. Well, then I didn't do what you said. Now that's a different thing. But I think people want to be engaged instead of us measuring engagement. I think they want to 100%. Say, pull me along, get me involved. And we have to be more intentional as leaders to do that instead of saying dictate.
Anything else?
I think to play off what Steve said, the workforce, all of us, leaders, everyone in the workforce feels uncertainty and instability. So what they are looking to us as leaders is, how can you give me some of that? And I don't know that our leaders know how to do that right now because the world is moving so fast and things are changing under our feet. But I think it goes back to what you said. How do we reground, and what are our values? What is the culture that we want to have? How do we treat people in this changing environment? If you come out and say something like, we focus on people first, and then you cut 40% of your workforce because you think you're going to save by making things more efficient through using AI, you didn't live up to what they said. So they live in that uncertainty of what they say is one thing and what they do is another. Absolutely. So it's time for us really to reground, I think was your word, right? Was that what you said?
Yep.
And to give that to our people. But I think for a lot of leaders and leadership teams, they actually need to do that work first.
Yeah.
The fact that it's on the plaque on the walls or on our website or in the laminated card in our pocket doesn't mean that we've actually been living those values. I mean, that's been a challenge for many leaders for a long time. But now, should we go back and actually look at our values again and how we want to lead and say, in the world that's changed so much and in the world that's going to be continuing to change, do these values still serve us? Yeah. And then if we commit to those, how do we make sure that those are lived out in our organization? How do we reward people for living our values? How do we recognize people when they live our values? How do we call out behaviors when people aren't living our values? And that is, I think, what people are looking to us for as leaders. They want to know that what we say is what we do and that you have my best interest at heart. Yeah. I don't think anyone expects that they'll be forever employed, if something changes with their job. But I think they do expect that if they end up, their job changes significantly or they lose their job, it's because we have done the work to make sure that we've considered everything to live our values and to look at them as a human and understand how this impacts them. So it's going back, I think, to some of the basics that we've said are important all along, but many of us haven't really done the work to live it out.
Yeah. And I love the ask. What you just brought up is also the ask component, because you said, let's challenge our values. Let's ask the questions. How are we really doing this? I know I experienced an exercise 3 years ago, maybe 3.5 years ago. And we had a team member who challenged a value and was like, no, we don't. That is not how I experience these interactions.
Nice.
And that person that individual was debating with had a challenge. Like challenged back almost in a negative way, like, oh, yes, we do. And this is what it is. It's like, no, you're not hearing me. No, we do not. That is not how I feel here, which is all about what this is about, right? Asking the questions, creating the vulnerability, challenge ourselves and being open to that feedback. So that's a great leadership hack. That's where we all need to start, is like, let's have these open dialogues early and let's start, maybe start at the top and figure out where you disagree in your C-suite, because I know there's going to be disagreement. And then let's bring it out to the organization once we align, and let's do the same thing and make sure, you want to understand your culture. It's all about the feedback from your team. Your high potential leaders and executives need more. They need someone who will come alongside of them to help them unlock what is holding them back and reach their fullest potential. Our executive coaching matches your leaders with the right coach through our proprietary coach matching process. We focus on real growth with clear goals, frequent check-ins, and measurable results that you see and experience. Whether it's a 6-month engagement or ongoing support, we help your leaders become the executives that they desire and that your organization needs. Visit talentmagnet.com to start the conversation today.
And the grayer my beard gets, the more I get into these rat holes, right? But is it really just about how do you create purpose? And Jennifer, when you were saying the values and the core is in this world, it's going to change crazily. How do we provide that purpose to our organization, right? Mm-hmm. To say that might be the North Star that will keep you through the wildness that's going to come. And where do we find it in an age that's going to change that much?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I think, again, if we're in a time of change and if we as leaders look at, I think the values have to start with leaders, but then they have to be tested out through the organization. Is this how you experience working here? What do you want from a workplace, et cetera? But just, in the last job where I was an HR practitioner, it was a company was about to go bankrupt. It was a turnaround situation. And we had a whole new executive team come in and try to turn around this organization. And I was brought in to kind of lead this culture change. And one of the things we did was go away as an executive team and say, clean slate, this company's run like trash right now. So how can, what do we want it to be? And one of the values that we came up with was tell the truth, honesty. And I'll never forget, because we started having quarterly meetings where we would tell people, here's the situation, here's what we're asking of you to help us improve the situation. And every time in those all-employee meetings, the CEO would end with, and these are our values. And when that slide would come up, tell the truth, people would start to audibly laugh, make comments, et cetera.
Sure.
And I love the way he handled it. He said, I hear you. That may not be what you're experiencing today, but this is what we want. And so when it doesn't
this is our
happen,
North Star.
I need you to come to us and tell us when we're not living this value.
Yeah.
It's because that's not what they had experienced. So we do that often as leaders and say, okay, we're going to tell the truth. And then we just walk away and people are like, no, that never happens here. So we need to hear them.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't, running away from the value, well, we can't say that anymore because people say we're liars. And so we can't have a value of telling the truth. No, tell them, I want you to call us on it when you're not told the truth, when it doesn't happen, when we don't say we value your life outside of work as well as we do here, but then we call you in 7 days a week and expect you to be on call 24 hours a day. I want you to call that out. Mm-hmm. And I think the leaders who will survive and thrive in the future are the ones who are open to that and who will be willing to make the necessary changes and admit when things are not, as you said, as they experience it. I had a CEO client once that, I was talking to him about, I read the values on the plaque in the wall, and then I spent 2 weeks kind of going around and talking to employees, and I said, these are not what's happening here. And he said, what do you mean? This is the best place to work anywhere.
It says it.
And it says it on the wall.
And I said,
that's be true.
I said, it's the best place to work for you.
Right.
You started this company. You're the sole owner. You have this fancy corner office. You come and go when you please. You do whatever you want. It is the best place to work in the world for you. For the people out there, they don't feel that way. And so he wasn't listening. He wasn't listening to me either.
And we moved on.
I did tell him. I spoke truth to power.
Yeah, that's awesome, though. Yeah, call it out. Call it out. This ask thing really resonates with me because I think calling it out, having an open and authentic dialogue doesn't start by saying, we're a trustworthy environment. Ask questions, right? It's all about behavior. And when it does get called out, how do we respond? Do we respond? Do we listen? Or do we listen and create some type of response to react to? Yeah, you're right.
I think we have to stop listening to solve, because a lot of people listen and instantly have solutions before James finishes his sentence. We have to listen, assess, decide, shift, maneuver, create. There's a lot of movement. We tend to make it very blocky. I heard from Jennifer, the CEO said this, therefore. And when we have that if-then type of environment, there's not really listening. There's, I heard you, and this is what we're doing. It has to be more pliable. came up with this new thing. We're trying to come up with a leadership one-pager because everybody needs one. And the thing that we put in there that my marketing person found was that leaders need to be permeable. And I'm like, ooh, tell me what that means. She goes, you need to be able to move in and out where you need to move. And I went, done. We're keeping that.
We're being permanent.
But that's hard because most organizations don't allow for that. And they expect people to stay in their lane or stay out of my lane. I think we need to be more permeable.
So, Jennifer, I'm going to come back to you on something because one of the things that you do is speak boldly with confidence because you care. Like you said, the Net CEO may not have paid any attention to me and didn't hear me and make behavior change, but you still told him right between the eyes what you saw. Not every leader gets there. I know all three of you are leaders who will speak the truth all the time, but where does that come from? Did you learn to like, no, I'm going to do that. That's the role I'm in. Or is it something you've always done? Or was it a time where like, I was so wallflower and quiet that I finally decided I'm not going to sit here anymore? Because a lot of leaders don't say what they think to their CEO.
Well, I think it's earned wisdom.
Okay. There we go.
21-year-old Jennifer, who was the only female on the leadership team and the youngest person in the whole entire facility, but yet had somehow managed to get that job, got a lot of feedback early on that she didn't have a poker face, that she steamrolled over people, that she needed to think before she spoke. She talked over people. And so she got sent away to 2 weeks of communication skills training where, I love this example because it was so great that one of the exercises was a survival exercise. Your plane crashes in the Arctic and you have these 8, completely unrelated items. What do? One of you's injured, you're by a frozen river. Well, I was in a team again with 7 or 8 other men who had been sent also to communications training. So. But I'm the only woman on the team. And I'm like, we have to stay with the plane. They will eventually come look for us. This is shelter. This is, whatever the reasons were that I had. And they were like, no, there's a frozen river and we have a scrub brush tree here and an axe. We're going to cut it down. We're going to make a raft. Idiotic.
With a big heavy tree.
Exactly.
And I'm, again, communicating it effectively. We have to stay over the plane. And they're like, no, we have to make this raft. And so, of course, we voted and I lose and they make a raft and we die. And so, at the end, the facilitator says to the class, here's the correct answer and here's why. And it was obviously stay with the plane. And one guy turns around and looks, I was sitting at the end of the table and he goes, well, you were right about it, but you were an asshole.
Wow.
Why are you at communications training? But I think those types of experiences, I am one to speak out. I have opinions. When I worked with Centennial with your team, I took a disc profile, one of the long form ones. And I remember reading it and kind of being disappointed. And I said to Mike Lynch at Centennial, I said, this is not a profile of an HR leader. Because it says she talks over people. She tends to take charge. She's going to make the decisions. And he said, well, let's look at the roles that you've had. You started up an HR department in a small company. It was your first job. Your second job, you started up a new facility in an existing growing company. And in your third job, it was a turnaround situation that was about to go bankrupt.
I know which leader I want.
The exact type of leader for that situation. Awesome. So some of it, I think, long answer to your question is that choosing the right environment where people will respect you when you say what you want. They won't necessarily, I don't want people to always agree with me, but I do want to be heard. But it's also, reading that DISC profile and any other assessment that I've ever gotten, I always tell leaders, it's important not to say, well, that's just who I am. You're just going to have to learn how to deal with it. I'm going to talk over you. I'm going to speak first. No, I have to say, when I'm in a room and I'm the leader, I need to make myself speak last. I need to go around the room and ask people for their opinions. I need to take time and think about it rather than just give the first answer that comes to my head. Because I am a problem solver. You come to me, he's like, Jennifer, I got this problem. And I'm like, here's what we're going to do. Now I have to go stop that, take a step back, listen, ask them what they think they should do. These are learned behaviors.
Right. Yes.
Learn to ask questions first.
Yeah.
Now, do I always do that? No. But It's also important, I think, to remember that sometimes as leaders, we don't make a safe environment for somebody to do what we're telling them we want them to do.
That's right.
Hey, I want to hear from you. I want you to challenge me or whatever. And the first time you do, you're like, what is going on with you?
Right.
Don't ever do that again.
100%.
So we also have to back up, I think, the culture again we want to create. If we want people to speak up, if we want them to speak truth to power, then we have to invite that and we have to be willing to tell it. In the company that was about to go bankrupt, it was very much a contentious environment, had been heavily unionized for a while. Employees hated management and management had never treated employees well. But I went out into the factories and I had listening meetings and I talked to people and they'd say things to me that were mean or harsh. And when I didn't yell at them or, code, that's not true, they started going, wow. I literally, after one of those first all employee meetings that we had where we listened to people and I got up and I listened, somebody came up and a man gave me a hug and he said, we have never had management actually listen to us.
Wow.
Learned behavior though.
Yeah.
Because I'm up there with everything in me going, when
Stay with the plane.
When I'm standing in front of a small group team and I'm like, okay, I got my little flip chart and I'm like, what's one thing you would change if you could change anything in this company? And the first person says, I would get a union. And HR Jennifer's like, well, okay, we'll put that up here. And then the second person, how about you? What would you? Well, I would get a union. Okay. And again, inside I'm dying. But after like the third or fourth person, I said, hey, I hear you. What I want to hear is why you feel like you need a union in order to be heard.
Yeah. Right. Amen.
And again, them hearing that, where I actually don't punish them for saying that, makes a difference. But that's probably not what 21-year-old Jennifer, who got sent to communications training, would have done. She'd been like, no, you don't.
Let me tell you all
Let
the
me tell you,
reasons you don't.
I am your savior and I'm going to fix everything for you. So
I always say there's self-awareness. There's a level of self-awareness where you actually read your assessment. And then there's a level of self-awareness where you actually start understanding your natural tendencies and behavior. And you say,
you manage those.
I'm going to write these down. Right. I went through the same experience, maybe when we worked together.
We have a similar
we are very similar, where it's like, you know what? I don't have to express my opinion, even though I'm vehemently against what was just discussed, or or that's not going to work. But I want to see how it works out. I'm curious how it works out. And I honestly have been surprised the many times where I think it's not going to work and it actually works out because they felt empowered to go do it. And all of a sudden it may not look exactly how I thought it was going to work out or that I thought it was going to fail, but they figured out how to put it all together. And you know what? They're like the most excited team ever and they're ready to run through a wall for you because of it. So we learn.
Earned wisdom.
You don't start there, but you earn it.
That's right. And young people can earn wisdom too. So you don't have to say, well, I won't be smart until I'm 60. Exactly. You can say, I'm going to be smarter tomorrow than I was today.
Yes. That's right. That's right. Steve?
Mike? I didn't know what we were doing. Okay.
In terms of managing your team with succession, retirements, new leadership talent coming into your organization, multi-generational workplaces, what have you been most surprised about and proud of over the last 12 months, the way your team's responded to the challenges thrown at them?
We've had a problem having people retire. They just don't know how or don't want to or aren't capable because they don't know what's on the other side. And I said uncertainty piece. So we're teaching people that it's okay. And something I borrowed from Caretha Rushing when I was on a board with her is red carpet in, red carpet out. So it's not a cliff. It's how are we going to do this? And it's different for each person. On the other side, though, we've really adopted something. So it's not a plug and play model. A lot of organizations, if James leaves, we replace him with Jennifer. If Jennifer leaves, we replace her with Mike automatically because roll, head count, all the silliness. So anytime anyone leaves, I tell them to stop. And then we assess and figure out what's needed and what roles don't we have and what gaps and skills do we need. Then who has the most talent to step into that? we look internally first because it's our tradition. And we've been successful with it. But we're also saying if someone comes in externally, it's not to replace, it's to add.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of companies are very reluctant to do that because it's always a talent fire drill.
Mm-hmm.
In, out, instead of adding value, moving ahead, learning from that person. Because whoever you bring in, even though you want them to be Steve when they come in, they can't be. It's not possible. So why are you trying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's been quite an adventure to do this because people are anxious and they want to solve.
Right.
And I'm like, look into the lava lamp, slow down. Let's see what's going on. And it's working for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. It probably reduces anxiety because it's hard to replace people who have brought tremendous amounts of value for decades. It makes you anxious. What in the world will we do when James isn't here or when Steve's no longer here? How would we ever replace this person versus, I don't know. Let's think creatively about what we need.
And to think it's the same that we needed. I love the way you say, hey, doesn't mean that we need exactly the same skill set.
Yeah. We had a purchasing person leave after 25 years. And he was in his 40s. So we're like,
I was going to say 25 years is light tenure with
I know. That's like newbie.
We lost
still an onboarding.
We lost a newbie.
But we said, hey, we should look at this young person over here. And everybody on the whole leadership team, other than two of us, said, absolutely not. You can't. Doesn't have a purchasing background. What do you think? And sat down with her and said, hey, we have an opportunity. We'd like to try this for 6 months. What do you think? I said, and in 6 months, we're going to sit down with you. And we put it on our calendar. And a week before her 6th month, we said, tell us how it's going. You tell us. And she said, oh, boom, 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 boom. And I'm doing this, this, and this. And I find my role and this is it. And I'm growing and I'm doing all these other things. And we had to go back to the other people on the leadership team and say, you can't choose the way you used to.
It's phenomenal.
Because companies cannot do that.
Right.
And we've been successful so far. We'll see how it goes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Is your team stretched thin because you can't find strong leaders? We understand how exhausting it is to carry the weight when positions stay open. Centennial specializes in leadership search. And for over 5 decades, we've helped organizations like yours find the right people for critical leadership positions. Our global network and time-tested process means we don't just fill positions, we find leaders who will elevate your team and help you achieve your vision. Stop settling for good enough. Visit centennialinc.com to discuss your leadership search needs today. James, as you look at your geographically dispersed talent pools and your multiple manufacturing plants in the current environment as well as past environments, are you finding what things are you finding geographically to be the same? Is leadership the same everywhere? Or are you dealing with things differently based on demographic, geographic locations?
So there are things that are common, right? You can go all across the country and there is such a different work ethos and ethic.
Yeah.
And we're struggling with the same way that you're saying, hey, we've always done it this way, right? From scheduling to how we hire to who we hire. You would never say, well, I'm going to have half of my population in a plant be part-time. I don't want that. But you have no idea how many people want that work.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I'm okay working 20 hours a week and then doing other stuff.
And actually, I need it because that's what's most supportive to my family or to my parents or to my children or what have you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you do have geographic things, right? We've got a plant in Traverse City, Michigan. And it is hilarious to try to hire people to work in a manufacturing environment in the summer in Traverse City. Nobody wants to be there.
I can be in the plant.
I can work in a plant or I can work on the marina in Traverse. So then you start thinking of, do I change my inventory policies to work different loads and levels for when people locally want to work here? Right? And it's really interesting. And it used to be, you have the older guard in these plants that say, I grew up working 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, and they should do the same.
In my bare feet.
Absolutely, right?
With no tools.
And to your point of, no, we've got to look at it differently. Yes, I understand that worked, and that worked for you.
Yeah.
Folks don't want that anymore, and we can bang our head against the wall and say, well, we're going to make everybody do that and not succeed. Or how do we retool and how do we rethink, right? And it is really interesting to start to see that change. And how do you bring that dynamic to your operations and make it, again, a place where people want to be? Not easy.
In terms of aligning to purpose, building trust, communicating with care, setting accountability, what are the similarities and differences either geographically or just year over year?
No, those are completely steadfast, I think. And that's where I go back to where we started the conversation of what are those core things that you need to go back to that are going to create the stability for all of the flux and all of the change that we're going to see, right? And when you hit that heartstring, if you will, of, hey, there is something here, right? And when you change from output and shifts and to lifestyle, and how do I support who you are outside of work? And how do we have the flexibility so that you can be a productive member of this team and do whatever, right? Trombone playing, family rearing, or cooking that you do outside of it.
Did you get there out of necessity because of lack of talent pool? Or did you get there intentionally? Because I bet you there's more employees we could add. We just have to go necessity or...
I wish we could say that we were super proactive and said, you get to a point where you say, hey, something's not working here. We've got to retool and rethink.
Gotcha. So the business, the people, the results, the turnover
absolutely
showed you all. We got to put a magnifying glass on this and try to figure out what in the world's going on.
Exactly. What we are doing is not working the way we want it to.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back. Let's ask, to your point.
I just love that you went to trombone playing. If I could work this shift so I can get my trombone in, that's outstanding. I love that.
Yes. Which means someone actually probably wanted to play the
there
trombone.
You go.
It's wonderful. Very creative.
So what are you three doing to stay relevant, to stay on top of your game, to keep being innovative? What are the three of you?
Let's start at that.
I'll spark the conversation over here, but AI, right?
On you.
And how do you learn what it really is and really isn't, right? And how do you start dipping your toes and then up to your knees and everything to say, this is what AI can help with. This is what AI isn't, right? And I think those are the biggest things down that line is it's a phenomenal tool. It's going to be with us. It's going to be a part of what we do. It also is nowhere close to perfect and can be scary and dangerous, right? So how do you understand its benefits, its limitations, and the only way is to dive into it, right? And that part of saying, learn it, start doing things with it, and start seeing what it's doing right and what it's not.
Are you intentionally carving out time to do that?
Absolutely.
Like, here's the approach I currently take, but I'm going to spend 3 hours in 2 weeks and see if there's another approach I should be taking based on other technologies and tools.
And instead of trying to do it as something different, it's what are the things that we do today and how could we fit it into, right? We just went this week through a whole exercise of inventory and schedule optimization. And we've got tools. And we took a step back and said, okay, what if we just dump this into GPT and say, tell me based on these things what you would do? And there were a couple of really interesting ahas. Right? And there were a couple of very, very barbaric ideas that made no sense.
And probably your private corporate licensed GPT.
That absolutely.
Just so everybody hears us clearly.
Absolutely.
If you're not paying for it, you probably should start because it helps you be a lot more secure.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. But and you had outcomes that some were outlandish or wouldn't work. That's just dumb.
Yep.
Or, I didn't think about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Steve, Jennifer's asked to go last.
Oh,
we made eye contact.
I want to be able to say what they said.
There you go. They're lost.
It's funny. I think the whole thing is why not be relevant? That's a very hard philosophical question for me, because if you go, well, I'm just going to wait. I've never been that person. You know,
there are people that the world passes them up.
Oh, I know. I work with a lot of them. I know a lot of them. But here's the thing: to be curious, to be interested, to be observant, to be emotional. All these things I think are essential as a person and as a workplace. And when you mentioned earlier, I love what you said. You know, if you're a people first workplace, how does it show up in behavior? How does it show up in how you speak and how you language? So I'm very fortunate. I get to create constantly all day, and I still use flip charts. And I'm not licensed, and they're not AI. Anyway, had to say it. But in there, I mean, I can just create and create and create.
Yeah.
And I can bounce ideas off people. And then we look for alternatives and we look for different things. But to have the freedom as a leader to create, and that's part of what I have, that makes me feel relevant. But I think relevance is decided by others. You know, you can say, I'm relevant. You're like, are you? You know, you know, but if others see that in you or others reach out to you, do that. And the last thing that I do all the time is I make sure to touch base with people outside of my sphere every day.
Critical.
And so I had someone write me today who said, I saw you at a conference 2 years ago and I need to tell you this story. And at the end, I'm crying. And I'm like, this is such a beautiful story. And she says, I just want to let you know. And I went, okay, that's relevant to me.
So now you've brought up a story and everyone's going to be wondering, I wonder what story Steve was sent. Can you share a little bit of that story without sharing names?
Yeah. She said, I saw you and somebody told me to go to your session. And I said, okay, I'll try it, which I always love hearing. Yeah, if I have to, I'll force myself. And then she says, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I really engaged. I signed up for your newsletter. I've been following you ever since. And every time I get a note from you, I'm just lifted up and I'm just like, oh my gosh. She says, I was a single mom in California, raised my son, and I met this man and we fell in love. And I'm like, okay. And she says, and we got married and he was the greatest guy. And he just had stage 4 cancer and we knew he'd beat it, but he didn't. And I just want to let you know, you've changed my life. And I'm like, cool. I need to go do a podcast. I mean, it just, when you hear stories like that and you know that you never know the lives you touch.
Never know. Yeah.
I get really hesitant with people when you talk about self-awareness. When I get people going, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. And the first thing you hear out of their mouth is I, and that's prevalent in a lot of different places today. That's not relevant. When you do what you should with other people, you get a story out of the blue like this. Wouldn't change it.
It's awesome. Thank you for sharing. All right, Jennifer, you're up.
Well, I think for me, as somebody who's self-employed, it may be different than a lot of other leaders that I see my role is really to be curious about what other people are doing, what other organizations are doing, what's working. So I spend a lot of time, I don't necessarily schedule it, but a good portion of my day is I read the case studies. I read the McKinsey reports. I read LinkedIn posts about where people, post their success stories. And then I try things myself and then I share, what I'm doing or whatever. And kind of, similar to Steve, people will, whether I'm speaking on a stage and I tell a lot of my stories, like, the couple that I shared earlier, those get told on stage sometimes. And then people, whether it's that day, they come up and talk to you then, or then later they come up and say, same thing happened to me, or I had something similar, or somebody messaged me on LinkedIn this week and said, you wrote on your LinkedIn newsletter a couple of months ago about, the AI tools that you were using, and I decided to try Trello, and it's changed my life. And I just want you to know, in case you think nobody reads your newsletter. We do. I have
That's
one.
great.
I got
I have a reader.
But that's kind of how I approach it. Is I am a curator of knowledge, experiences, best practices, and so that's my role because I'm looking for what I can share with others that I either am curious about or that it has worked or that I think will work or that I've tried and have worked for me. And so my role is to be curious, to curate, and then to communicate.
Oh, 3 C's.
I didn't
Look at that. That's
I didn't
amazing.
even use
Off
AI
the
to
top
go
of
for
my
that.
head.
Curious,
But
curate,
that's my
communicate.
role. Is I think I'm kind of like a catalyst for other people.
Another C.
Another C. To get them ideas about what they can do, and sometimes that's through. I share a lot of stories of how I've failed, and some of them were very painful failures. And
And people relate.
people associate me now with the word disrupt and disruptive. And in one of my latest keynotes, I shared this story about how in one of my jobs, I was told where I was very successful. Everything was going great. We were being rewarded and accolades were coming in from everywhere, and we were a best place to work and world class in every way. And I'm getting, exceeds expectations in my reviews every year. And I sit down with my boss at the end of the year to get my review, thinking I'm going to get another exceeds expectations and another high raise. And I did get exceeds expectations and I did get a high raise. And then he said, Jennifer, our leadership team doesn't think you're the leader to take us into the future.
Oh, wow.
And I was a little surprised. I think, you tell people you don't want to surprise people in a performance evaluation, but then I was the HR person that got surprised. But again, wisdom, both at the time and having a good conversation and a good relationship with him, and certainly years later, was what I was doing was maximizing to the hilt everything that had already worked. What I was not doing in this rapidly growing company that was experiencing all kinds of growth challenges was thinking about the future and what we needed to be doing differently because of our growth and change. So instead, I'm growing existing programs. I'm maximizing employee suggestion systems. I'm getting high employee engagement scores. All those metrics were fantastic, but the leadership team took a step back and said, she's not out front thinking, what do we need to do to hire differently in the future because things have changed. She's not out front thinking about what do we need to do in terms of our pay and benefit systems that right now we pay people well. They have great benefits, but people's expectations are changing. So again, a lot of their wisdom, I think the messaging could have been different. You're not the leader to take us into the future. I think it could have been more like, we'd like to see you change your approach or challenge you to do that or give you some goals and expectations there. And, because it was a Japanese company, it was kind of odd again that we don't think you're the leader to take us in the future, but yet you still have a job here. And it's kind of like Jennifer, the achiever, said, well, I need to go somewhere and challenge myself. So I went somewhere broken, place that's about to go bankrupt, a complete leadership turnaround situation, a cultural change. I needed to challenge myself to do that. But what I tell leaders every day is you don't have to leave and go someplace broken to do disruptive things or to lead transformation or to think about the future of work. What you need to think about is not just what's not working and what we need to improve and do differently, but we also need to, like you kind of spoke to it, we need to evaluate what maybe is working today, but could be done better or differently, or with the way world has changed. What's been working is we have people work full time and we just keep hiring to replace people that are leaving in the summer, right?
Exactly.
Instead of thinking, well, there's a lot of people out there that would like to work on the dock during the day and, 5 hours a night at night. And we could have a part-time workforce that's fully engaged, so that's, I think, the challenge for us as leaders, again, is when people say, oh, Jennifer, when I think of disruption, somebody just wrote me that. I get people that write me too, Steve.
You're one reader.
Somebody wrote me yesterday and said, when I think of the word disruption, I think of you. And again, I kind of laugh inside to think the girl that was told, or the woman that was told she was not the disruptive leader to take us into the future. Now, however many years later, 15 years later, is something that someone that has created, along with many other people, a movement worldwide to encourage people, again, to think differently, to challenge best practices, to challenge what's already working. I always say disruption is not about, yelling and screaming and breaking things. Disruption is about how can we think differently? And that's that excites me. I wake up every day thinking, what can I learn? How can I view this differently? Who can I talk to that's doing this that either failed or maybe it worked? Both. I'd like to hear from both so that I can learn and then share back with people. Because one thing I learned, when I did leave the corporate world from being a practitioner, and then I engaged a coach at Centennial, Mike Lynch, again, who changed my life. Every Mike at Centennial changed my life. Mike Sr., Mike Jr., Mike Lynch. And Mike sent me out into the world. It wasn't what I expected or what I thought I was going to get through a career coaching kind of time frame where I was in transition I didn't really want to go back into corporate HR. I'm thinking like every other executive who gets kicked out on the street that I'm going to start my own business and I'd be awesome at it, even though I had no clue. And Mike's program was, we create a marketing plan for you, and then you don't go look for a job. You go out and you talk to people. You talk to people. If you want to start your own business, you talk to people who've started their own business, and you learn what wisdom they can share with you. Or you talk to women leaders, and what are the challenges that they've dealt with, and how did they handle it. You also talk to people in HR and recruiting because that's what you've done. And I am an introverted person. That was both shocking and appalling to me that I was expected to call people and ask them to meet with me. And so he put me on the remedial plan. I met with your dad first, who in the comedy of all errors gave me 3 names, which was the program. You need to try to get 3 names. You build enough trust that you get somebody to give you 3 names. Your dad gave me the name of the very first person when I joined the last company that was the turnaround situation. The VP of operations got fired on like my second day by the CEO in a very unkind way.
And that was the first connection.
And I had a one-on-one scheduled with him for that afternoon, so I never got to meet him in person. But I dealt with all of the after effects with this person I'd never met in person. And so one of the names your dad gave me was that guy who's now an Edward Jones representative. He's like, he'll take care of you. And I was like, no, please.
No, he won't.
That's hilarious.
And then the second name, I went and met with him, and the name he gave me was the VP of Industrial Relations, that I replaced at that company that had not wanted to leave. And I'm like, God's testing me. He's sending me out to meet with all these people that, I'm already not good at this. But
that's like the Christmas Carol.
It
is.
Ghost stuff.
all of Christmas past though.
But what I learned was both of those people, both the one that got fired and the other one got fired too, I guess, they were so kind. Mm-hmm. They wanted to help me. They had found their bliss elsewhere. They didn't harbor a grudge against me, but they helped me, and everyone that I met during that kind of 3-month period just gave me such great advice. Please don't start your own business yet, Jennifer. You don't know how. You don't know. Why don't you go to work in the interim with somebody who can teach you how to build relationships? You've already said you don't know how to do that. Hey, by the way, you're working with the folks at Centennial. Why don't you go ask them if they'll take you on as a charity case? And I think that also has been something that I learned during that time that I've kept up is going out and talking with people without hopefully having a need. So again, when people go out and they ask to meet you for coffee because they're out of work and they want to give you their resume, we all do the same thing because we want to help. You do that and I go, okay, I'll meet with you, and I really don't have time and I don't want to, and I don't drink coffee, so Starbucks is already not good. But then you give me your resume and you go, oh, yeah, I'll try to give it to some people that I know. And then I may or may not do that, but I had good intentions. But instead, if you meet with people and you say, tell me what you're doing that's exciting.
Right.
What's something, I always tell people at conferences, don't just ask people what they do for a living and where they work. Ask them, what's something exciting that you and your team worked on this year? What's something that you worked on that didn't work? Get people to share their experiences with you. Yeah. And that's where you truly both build relationships. You find your people, but you also learn from them. And I met so many people. And again, Steve Browne had been chasing me for years to come to GECRA meetings, to come to the HR roundtable. He'd even told the operations manager at the automotive plant that I worked, we wore uniforms. And I guess Jim was Steve's neighbor and he was out in the yard with his uniform on. And Steve walked over and said, do you work with Jennifer McClure? I'd never met this man. Yeah. And he said, please tell her to come to the roundtable.
Steve, thank you for never giving up on us.
But who did I call when I was in transition and say, hey, would you meet with me?
James Biro.
Exactly.
But again, he was so kind.
Yeah.
Gave me time, gave me advice.
Yeah.
didn't hold against me the fact that for years I had not answered his invitations.
Well, there's
to
a lot
come
of
to
lessons
those
in here.
things.
The one thing that feels most like the fact that you now are known as a leader of a global movement called Disrupt, the fact that you took feedback. I was like, I hope our listeners and community are hearing this. You took feedback and you didn't just tuck it away and get angry and move on. And now you may have.
Was I hurt? Sure.
You may have, and you may have immediately reacted that way, but listen to the lessons that you're teaching from it.
Yeah.
It's incredible, right?
Well, some of that's survive. I mean, again, people survive maybe in different ways. Some people survive, they dig deep, they dig in, they fight back. I survive by forward.
Yeah.
So,
that's good.
Okay, so this is bad. I'm not happy here, but the only way out is through. Thank you, Oprah, for that. But how do I keep moving forward? And I think that's my survival mechanism.
Yeah.
And it has served me in some ways, and sometimes it doesn't serve me.
Yeah.
Like everything in life.
AI, Oprah, and the 4C model.
Oh
She's got it. She's got it all.
Man,
I don't know why we're here.
I hope somebody wrote down those C's so that I
got
can
it.
so good that I can trademark it now.
Exactly. The 4 C's.
Disrupt
Be careful
HR
how you
speed.
phrase it, because I own a trademark on something called the 4 C's.
Ooh.
Well, which I know and would never come.
Yes, but those are good, and we do have them captured, and we'll probably create a short about them
Okay.
you go.
as well.
You should.
So,
You should.
tell me about, James, you've been emceeing Disrupt Cincy for years now. Jennifer, how long has it been? 12, 13 years since you first had your...
December 13th, 2012. So we just celebrated our 13th anniversary.
Wow.
Is that right?
And
2013. It's our 12th anniversary last week.
Ballpark, how many Disrupt events have there been globally? How many countries?
I think over 700. We're currently at 171 licensed cities in 32 countries. That goes up, down every month. But we've been in as many as 37 countries in the past at one time. Again, so it's like everything else. It's fluid.
Sure. And everyone at this table was at the very first one.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yes.
can say we were at
All
the party.
4 of us.
We
Yeah.
were at the
All
party.
4 of us.
Yeah.
It was a great time.
Yeah.
I remember a lot about that night. I actually went back because there's 2 upcoming Disrupt events. There's February 19th,
In Cincinnati.
Disrupt HR Cincinnati. In Cincinnati. There's thousands or hundreds of Disrupt events coming up. But then in July, we're hosting one Disrupt HR NKY.
Yeah.
I went back and watched some of the original videos, the OGs from the very
We're
first
yelling
event.
from
Wow.
stage.
Yes.
Well,
the
'cause
sound.
you're in a
the sound
giant
is
chasm.
And it was awesome. There's
Yeah.
like 2 people who were on stage that are now on our faculty at TMI.
That's awesome.
That one of them is one of my most closest of friends, Megan Leisure, and one of our amazing executive coaches on our faculty. We didn't know each other then. We met 6 years ago, but yet there's that. Melanie was there, Melanie Boer, who's now our experience and engagement officer at Talent Magnet. And then so many friends, right? We're still
Christy
here
Derrick
today.
spoke at the first event.
Yes, Christy Derrick,
Mhm.
also faculty member, recently took a new amazing leadership role with Paychex, but helped me build a mastermind program at Talent Magnet Institute that's been running now for 3 years that serves a lot of HR executives. And she also spoke. I listened to her talk as well. So the impact is incredible. So thank you, visionaries, for bringing things to life. Are there themes that you feel like are going to carry into next year that were discussed this year? Are there I know there's going to be topics talked about in 2026 that nobody even thought about in 2025 because that's part of being disruptive. But any themes that you're most excited about seeing carry
Steve
forward?
always has idea on themes he'd like to see. So I'd like to
Oh,
or hear.
Steve,
so
what
I'd love to hear
themes
what
would future
themes
speakers?
Steve wants to hear from.
The whole idea of thinking differently to break complacency. Complacency is crushing organizations.
Mhm.
But I love what you said earlier. It doesn't have to be screaming and throwing things against the wall.
Mm.
But if you can break out of the cul-de-sac that you're there, how do you do that? There's a book we use at work, Orbiting the Giant Hairball by Gordon McKenzie. And we love the hairball. It has huge draw.
Mhm.
But how do you get out of it?
Mhm.
So coming to an event, speaking, doing a different idea. So I'd like to see people pull back instead of just try to incrementally change. Pull back, throw out a big, hairy idea, see where it lands. We don't have enough of that. We get caught up in the noise too much. And so we want people to come up and just complain. Oh, that's different. No, it's just more complaining. I'd love it to be very forward thinking, positive. I love the idea of through. Got to be a great theme. Just by itself, through. What takes us through? It'd be giant.
But it's also like in our first event, Chris Ostrich is my business partner in this business in crime. Even though, Chris, I haven't seen you in 7 years, you're still
Hello,
there.
Chris.
You still were the one that helped make this happen. So Chris and I, pulled this together. We say we're going to have it at a brewery downtown. We're going to invite cool people to share their ideas. And James, you signed up as a manufacturing manager at the time, right?
Awesome.
For something called Disrupt HR.
Yeah.
To give a 5-minute
That's my James
talk.
that I know.
What I think that spirit is what we try to capture. So say why you did it.
So first, it was a challenge. And I'll tell you the story. I saw the invite and it said, we want to hear about HR from non-HR folks. And I said, bull. I said, I'm going to sign up. And I even told my wife, I will bet you I never get a call back on this. Right? Because it's going to be the same group of HR people who always talk to the same group of HR people in the same way. And we're done.
Yes.
And 2 weeks later, I'd get a ping from Chris. Sure, we'd love to hear from you. And that's what made me fall in love with Disrupt HR, which I think there's a couple of really big learnings from what you guys sparked, which is definitely look outside of the normal framework. And it's what you were looking to do, right? And second, and I think that's something that we don't do well as leaders, and Steve, you were referring to it a little bit, is look for spark and look for talent in places that you normally don't, right? Open up the doors to say, yeah, I'm going to look somewhere else for somebody who can run procurement. Or, hey, I'm going to grab a plant manager who makes cookies and say, sure, come and give us a chat. Right?
About HR, about leadership.
And you start getting ideas that are much, much richer than if you stay in your own chamber talking to the same people in the same way. And I think you guys did a fantastic job of that.
What I'm, again, I go to as many events as people invite me to. And of course, I've been to all the Cincinnati events and we'll go to the Northern Kentucky event. When I'm sitting in the audience at an event, I don't get to watch as many of the videos as I'd like to. We just passed 10,000 videos on our Vimeo channel this past month. And that's a lot of cities. Like in Cincinnati, we had 3 events where we didn't get videos. So that means there's probably been 11,000 Disrupt HR talks given. And I wish I could watch them all. I do see the titles. And so I kind of get themes of titles. But when I sit in the audience at an event, I am always, it wells up with pride in me, not because it's something that Chris and I started or that I had a hand in. I actually kind of disassociate myself in some weird way from Disrupt HR. I'm so proud when I do see the people who have never spoken, which is why we created it. Right now we have some cities who've been doing it for a long time and they see themselves as a little mini TEDx and the speakers have to go through coaching and they're all founders and CEOs. And yes, they give great talks and speak well, but it's not that original spark that we wanted, where I always say, I love a good, bad disrupt speaker. I love somebody who is so nervous, who gets behind the time of their slides, but they got their idea and they're so proud of themselves. And then I see their LinkedIn post where they get their video and they're like, I was so nervous because I felt like it went so bad, but then I watched my video and it wasn't that bad. And now I want to do it again. But I'm really proud because I know a lot of these people have never done it before, or they've been waiting to share this idea for a long time. I went to an event, you were there in Columbus 2 years ago. And one of the talks was like a 3-legged stool in talent management. And the young woman was, I think, an engineer. And it was so well done. And I went up to her after she came off stage and I'm like, that was amazing. And she said, that's the first time I've ever spoken.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And so I sit in the audience going, these people that are on this stage, these 12 to 14 speakers that most events have, or 18 or 20 or whatever it is, they're in your companies. And what we're not doing a good job of as leaders is saying, here's a creative format for you to come and throw your ideas against the wall, or here's something fun to do to challenge you to share, or or just asking, what do you think we should do differently? Because that's what I love about Disrupt HR is when people say, I've never spoken before, or this is something I've been wanting to share for a long time, or it is, it's like life in general. Of the 10,000 Disrupt HR talks, there's probably 10, maybe 20% that are truly disruptive ideas, something new, something really future forward thinking. There's probably 20% that are just totally bad, It was just diversity is good, do it. Culture is important. And then there's the 60% in the middle that are rehashing an old idea. But again, maybe they challenge. I always say, people say, well, I wasn't disrupted. I went to an event and I wasn't disrupted. I'm like, did you learn something that sparked your attention? Did you meet somebody new?
Did you listen?
Did you walk away? You had a laugh. I think you were disrupted. You didn't have to leave with space lasers or something that's never been done before to be disrupted. But it's disruptive when people have that chance to share their ideas. And what I think we're missing again as leaders in our organizations is how do we pull from that talent that we have out there, from the ideas that are out there that we haven't created a format. Do a Disrupt HR in your own company. But again, do you have a psychologically safe culture where people feel like if I get up and say, we're doing this totally wrong, we should do it this way, I'm not going to be punished or blackballed or something. Even if my company doesn't like the idea or doesn't do it, I had the opportunity to share it. And maybe it sparked an idea for somebody else. I've shared, again, a story about good, bad Disrupt HR speakers. One of my favorite stories is from Cincinnati, from an event that we didn't get videos from. And it probably is the same one where Steve and James, there was a presenter that didn't show up.
I was laughing earlier because I want to bring that up.
We had a presenter that called me on the way to the event and said she wasn't coming. Her slides were already loaded and they volunteered to do it and improv.
That wasn't recorded?
It was not
recorded.
Not. I think it was at that same event. It's in here. You had to be there.
Exactly. You had to.
At that same event, there was a gentleman who had reached out to connect with me on LinkedIn. And at the time, I have tons of connections on LinkedIn. And if you were in Cincinnati, for sure. I mean, I always look at the profiles, but I connect. So I connected with him. And then he sent me via LinkedIn message after I connected with him, a manifesto. It was at least 35,000 words of why, because I had Recruiter on my profile. I wasn't at Centennial, but I guess had a Recruiter on my profile. And he said, why do recruiters not give candidates an opportunity to actually share their skills? So I look at his profile. He's got a degree, an MBA from University of Cincinnati in project management, and he's been unemployed for a while. And he's like, why are recruiters not giving people the chance to show their skills? They just pick people who've done the job, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, hey, we're having this Disrupt HR Cincinnati event. You can give a 5-minute talk. Why don't you come and share your idea? There'll be a room full of recruiters and HR people there that you could share whatever you think we need to do differently. Well, he took me up on it. He applied. I was like, in. Don't know you, never met you, don't know if you're a good speaker, in. I want to hear the idea. So he comes and I'm, before the event starts, I ask the speakers to get there early and we're all back by the bar kind of like chit-chatting and I'm like, wait, we're missing somebody. And they're like, is it that guy that's sitting on the first row in the front seat, spacing forward?
Ready to roll, baby.
And I was
Ready
like,
to go.
well, first of all, it's the rule is 20 slides, 15 seconds for everybody. The day before he says, I don't only have 5 slides. I'm like, wrong. So I'm like, send me 20. Well, he sends them and they're just like a sentence on a white background. So I made this. I didn't ask him. Again, this is where, Jennifer, the high D just says, I'm creating your presentation for you. So I made his slides, at least put the words on a black background. So I go up to him. I'm like, hey, the other speaker's back here. You want to come back? And he goes, nope. He's staring straight forward. And I'm like, there may be some clues as to why we're not getting jobs. But he said, I'm good right here. And I'm like, okay, well, you're this in the order. So he gets up and he's got all of his notes on 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper ripped out of a binder. He reads his presentation for 20 slides, 15 seconds each for 5 minutes. And the idea was an NFL combine for job seekers, where they get the opportunity to demonstrate their skills for a group of recruiters or hiring managers who get a chance to see them demonstrate their skills. It was terribly, delivered. There was no engagement with the audience. He walked off the stage and we had a break, just a 10-minute intermission after that. And at least 2 or 3 people came up to me and said, that guy was terrible, but I love that idea. I'm going to take it back to my team and see if we can do something like that. So when I say I love a good, bad Disrupt HR speaker, you don't have to be that bad.
You don't have to be,
and he left right after, and I've never seen him again.
But he got hired.
I hope he got hired. But I think that's in your company. That type of
story
idea
somewhere
is in your company where people need to find a format or a way to share that with you.
Mm-hmm.
And we like to think, oh, we have a suggestion system or I have an open door. I go out and I talk to people all the time. But are you truly soliciting their ideas, the good ones, the bad ones, the ones that are bad that maybe spark someone else in a different way? And are we sharing those and rewarding people like what Sarah Blakely, the Spanx founder, says around her dinner table, her dad asks him, well, how did you fail today? And so she attributes that to her being a billionaire today. How are we doing that in our companies? Are we encouraging people to share their ideas, good, bad, and different? Are we giving them a format to do that? Are we giving a way to evaluate those ideas? Not, well, thank you for sharing. Okay, go back to work now. Are we actually having a way where we can try some things, where we appreciate, though, the failures? Okay, this didn't work, but what did we learn from that failure? We learn we'll never do that again. Or we learn, well, that didn't work, but maybe if we tweak it this way. That's where disruption comes from, is where, in one of my disruption keynotes, I talked about like the guy that invented the Dyson. That was prototype number like 5,673. Did we need a new vacuum cleaner? No. But he was like, there's a better way. And I'm going to try 5,000 times to get there. Viagra was created because they were looking for a heart drug, but they noticed some side effects while they were doing the testing, so.
Now it's a podcast.
Now it's a podcast.
So again, how are we looking for the Viagras and the Dysons? Bubble wrap. I know you like this one. Was created because it was created as a wallpaper in the 70s and nobody bought it. And so it was sitting around in warehouses and these guys started packing stuff with it.
Ideas.
Wow.
How are we getting those ideas that are not disruptive maybe on their face, but then we're saying, how can we do it differently? Or how could this be used differently? Or what did that spark in me? So as I said earlier, that's kind of how I go about my day. How did this company do this? And what did that spark in me? And now I get to play with AI a lot. Well, here's somebody, I did my ChatGPT wrap yesterday because I saw it on LinkedIn. And I'm like, but I made it better for me. That's, I think, how we can survive, to go back to where we started, this unknown, this constantly changing, the exhaustion. If we can switch on our curiosity for, okay, everything's changing all around me. When something changed, this broke. And maybe that was a good thing because maybe we need to think differently about that. Or it made this better. Why was that? And how can we apply that elsewhere in the organization? Being really a curious student of change and disruption all around us. But how can we as leaders harness that? And help our employees harness their ideas to make things better.
That's awesome. Unconventional. So we changed after years of having the Talent Magnet Institute podcast. One of our team members was like, you know what? We need to go through a branding. We need to work on everything we're talking about stands for something. And we landed on the word unconventional. So much so that unconventional is now one of our 5 core values in our collective organizations. Everything we do, we try to put through that filter of how can we make this unconventional?
Awesome.
What does this look like? How do we disrupt ourselves? How do we think differently? How do we blow the minds of our clients when they say we need a leadership facilitation? How do we change it? How do we completely shift the way they think? We recently did this with webinars. We've learned that pretty much no one has a professional studio that they do webinars in. They all do it from their little webcam in their office or I kid you not, I saw someone on another webinar from a bedroom. I'm like, didn't we learn to stop doing webinars from a bedroom with an unmade bed behind you? And we did this recently. We had 2 of our team members do a very live webinar right in here, a live webinar where employees could give inputs and ask questions live with 2 of our team members sitting here. And it was so disruptive that the SVP of talent management in that organization said, I don't even know what to think about this. I've never experienced anything like this. I don't even know if our team how they would respond to this, because it's like, and then again, we're afraid what questions they might ask. It's live and all of these things. Like, we can filter all of that. We're experts in the field, but it wasn't on a webcam. So this coming year, we said, we're not doing one webinar unless it's in this studio, because we're going to blow people's minds with our webinar experiences. So one little example, but now I'm going to ask you in closing, what does unconventional leadership mean to you? Steve, I'm going to start with you.
Never accepting what you find in front of you as all there is. There's always different aspects you can keep pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. At some point, you need to stop. But just saying, well, this is what's in front of me, so that's what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. I think people stop there and settle quite often because closure is more important than curiosity. 2 C's.
I'm trademarking it.
Okay. But I think don't settle. And you just don't know what's going to happen if you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. James, what's unconventional leadership look like to you?
Soft. We're taught our whole life that leadership is strong, that leadership is assertive, that leadership fills the room. And unconventional leadership opens up and stands back.
Love it.
And asks.
Yeah.
But we are taught our whole life, right, to have the right, quick, decisive answer, to be bulldozerish, to be strong is to be a leader. Yes, at certain times. Unconventional is, how can you be a quiet, soft leader that drives excellent organizations and excellent results?
That's awesome. Thank you. I didn't know where you were going to go with soft. I'm like, further define this for me. Because it feels very strong.
Bad thought. Move on. Bad thought.
Jennifer, what does unconventional leadership mean like to you?
Hard.
Yes.
Yeah, I think hard in the sense that I think there are core tenets of leadership. I think you need to care at the core. You need to care about a cause. You need to care about your people. But being unafraid to dance differently, to do it differently, to behave differently, to try different things, to risk, to fail, to succeed. So to me, that's unconventional because, and I'm wired to be secure in black and white. This is the way we do it. The rule says this. And so my whole life, since I've kind of recognized that and again tried to manage against my tendencies, is how do I challenge myself to say it's safe to be here and you're comfortable here, but maybe you need to step out of the box for a minute because it might be better over here, or it might be hard for a while, but it could make things better for everyone if you do this work. So to me, unconventional leadership is not staying in the path always. Sometimes staying in the path is good. Sometimes people need certainty. They need structure. They need, steadfastness. But knowing when you can test that and when you can't, I think are where the real leaders succeed.
It's awesome. So having you three in the studio together is a gift for me, certainly. Each one of you, if you were to peel back layers of who Mike Sipple is, and I'll try to share this without getting emotional, but there's people like my dad, like, your grandfather, like your, best friends. The three of you are all like imprinted in my heart and soul of everything I do. Like, I think we've all been the great gift of Steve Browne, when I was just a young pipsqueak saying, I'll meet with you. Or James accepting it and, hey, I'd like to come over and take a tour of your plant. You don't know me, but a lot of people say great things about you. And having the blessing of working for 9 years with Jennifer McClure right across the hallway was an incredible blessing. And that was early on, right? Just this early on experiences of all of that. So I want to thank you three for what you've done for me and my leadership and what you're doing for the world of leadership. And the fact that, hey, you're right, we need to be more vulnerable. We need to be more open. It's okay to be emotional. You can't have a discussion with Mike Sipple Sr. If you meet him for 5 minutes or you meet him for 35 minutes or an hour, he's going to maybe tear up 17 times and tell you some amazing story. And this week, we were interviewing a potential new team member for our organization. And he teared up towards the end, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't know I was going to cry in an interview." And he was just saying how grateful he is. This year's our 50th. We're in the midst of our 50th year anniversary.
That's awesome.
We're
Wow.
6 months into that celebration for Centennial, which he was the first employee of. And he's just grateful that the lights are even on, you know, this work of doing things differently, being boutique, not celebrating the volume of searches we do every year, just saying, here's what we do. And this is what we do really well. And this is who we are. And we're not chasing a number. Gets him really emotional, gets me really emotional now, leading the organization. So, and never would I would have thought when we worked together that I'd be in this position. You know, I was just trying to learn from great, smart minds. And Jennifer McClure happened to be one of those who taught me a whole heck of a lot. So I'm just very grateful for the three of you rejoining me here in the studio for the Unconventional Leadership Podcast. We're excited about Disrupt HR Cincy, February 19th. And we're excited about July 8th for Disrupt HR NKY and all of the other hundreds and hundreds of chapters and cities that are hopefully going to have that non-HR person bring up the most amazing people leadership idea that you could possibly think of. So thank you three for joining me today.
Thanks.
Thank
It's
you,
great.
Mike, for having us.
And thank you all for joining us for this episode. Thank you for allowing us to be with you and walk alongside of you in your leadership. I hope and pray you heard so many amazing nuggets that you revisit. Check out the shorts that are going to come out from this episode. And we look forward to our next conversation. So thank you, and keep leading well and keep leading disruptively.
And play your trombone.
Trombone. Absolutely.
That's right.
Yes.